Hey guys. Nate, you can stay in here, but I want you to be quiet. Okay.
I will.
Nathaniel, do not make me get the switch out. Okay. Do not do that, son. Stop.
I'm playing mute.
Nathaniel, just stop. You are fine. Stop. Okay. So here I got a story for you guys. This one is not out of the big book. This one is from a website that I've been finding recovery stories on, and I want to read it to you. Okay? So if you're laying in bed right now, go ahead and close your eyes, put your earphones in, and I'm going to read you guys an inspirational story about recovery. And Nathaniel, if you make any loud noises, I swear to God, they have their earphones in, and that will make their ears hurt. So be very quiet.
They can't even.
Yes, they can. So hush. Okay, you want to hear the story too? Then be quiet and sit down. Here we go, everybody. Esther Nagel was 16 when she discovered the seeming magic of alcohol. It made her feel relaxed, soothed her insecurities, and made it easier to talk to boys. I was confident. I had very low self-esteem, Esther, now 45, told DrugRehab.com. Alcohol just made me feel a lot better. It made me able to talk to people. It made me able to get up and dance. Growing up in the 1970s and 80s in a small village in the Rhondda Valley in South Wales was difficult at times for Esther. On the playground, kids would taunt her about her name. There were no other Esthers among her age group. In fact, the only other Esther her parents' peers knew of was middle-aged TV journalist and talk show host named Esther Ratson. Not exactly the epitome of cool. It didn't help matters when kids who'd been reprimanded by their mother, the local French teacher, shouted out Esther in school, or that Esther excelled in French. Those just added to the list of things that made her odd. And the more she tried to fit in, the more she stood out. But no one was as hard on Esther as she was on herself. Looking at herself in the mirror, she saw a girl with weird hair and big teeth. An ugly girl who wasn't worthy of the attention of boys she had crushes on. An awkward girl who was different from everyone else and unlovable. By her early 20s, the quirky girl with the funky name had fallen in love, became a mother, and suffered from heartbreak. Along the way, she developed an indelible bond with alcohol, cigarettes, weed, rock and roll music. At the time, her lifestyle didn't seem all that unusual for a young adult. All her friends took drugs and drank heavily, too. In fact, many of them partied even harder than she did. Esther equated drinking with fun. As for people who didn't drink well, they were just boring. I can remember several times saying, if people don't like getting drunk, I can't be friends, she recalls. But alcohol meant far more to Esther than simply having a good time. Drinking was a coping mechanism. She counted on it to drown out her anxiety and numb her emotions. If I drank enough, I could stop feeling what I felt. Or at least, I thought I wasn't feeling what I felt, she recalls. But, in reality, it never quite worked that way. All too often, a drunken Esther would end up in a friend's arms, crying inconsolably, unable to make any sense about her emotions. For the longest time, she told herself she was fine. After all, she wasn't drinking alone, like an alcoholic. She was doing it in the company of friends. It was a social activity. But by the time she turned 25, Esther had broken that taboo too. To pursue a degree in teaching, she moved 40 miles away from home, with her young son in tow, to attend the university. It was a lonely time for the single mom, and red wine became her surrogate friend. Soon she was drinking on an almost daily basis, and she was convinced she needed it as a lubricant to tap into her creativity. Every single assignment, I was drunk. I was stoned. I remember telling myself, I probably shouldn't be doing this with cider and joints, and I tried to write an essay straight once, she recalls. I couldn't do it. Eventually, Esther earned her degree, moved back to Rhonda Valley, and landed a job in the IT industry. Her old friends were there too, so she didn't have to drink alone anymore. But she did. Stress continued to rule her life, and the next 2 decades were a chaotic blur as she lurched from one calamity to the next, self-medicating with alcohol. Booze was her constant companion and go-to remedy for just about everything. If she was happy, she needed a drink. If she was sad, she needed a drink. If she was stressed, she needed a drink. If she didn't have an excuse to drink, she'd find one. I kind of lived this crazy life for 20 years. All my 20s, all my 30s were basically fueled by stress, alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, weed, and rock and roll music. That was it. Apart from my kids, that was my whole life. While she didn't drink every day, she did drink most days. And all too often, she'd drink to the point of oblivion. Esther thought she was doing a good job of camouflaging her drinking. She'd purchase her alcohol from different stores, hoping the shopkeepers wouldn't notice how much booze she was buying, and she hid the extent of her drinking from others. Nobody knew how much she was actually drinking when she was alone. She even managed to convince herself that she didn't have a problem. She could quit any time she wanted to, she told herself. She was sober through her pregnancies, after all, and she was a good mother. She always took care of her sons. Besides that, she had friends who drank more than she did. She'd look at them and think, okay, I'm not as bad as them. It never dawned on her they might both be alcoholics. Still, there were cracks in the facade. More mornings she'd wake up with shakes, her body revolting from the poison that she had depended on, and others had begun to notice her problem. People knew I drank too much when I drank with them, and there was one time that I had to go to the hospital for a blood test, and they had to retest me because of the level of alcohol in my blood. In 2013, though it all came tumbling down, her relationship with her youngest son's father had ended, and his control and emotional abuse continued long after the separation. She found out her mother had cancer. She was overwhelmed by a new job that she felt she couldn't handle, and her faithful companions, alcohol and marijuana, no longer provided the comfort she needed. In the grip of a breakdown, she quit her job and spent the next several months completely going mental. She began drinking every night, sleeping through the day, and making a real drama out of everything. Then there was a moment of clarity. Esther knew she needed to do something with her life, something that might pull her out of this abyss. So she enrolled in a training program to become a yoga instructor. She'd first discovered yoga in 2007, shortly after her brother Richard had died. It had always given her a sense of comfort and peace. She wanted to find that serenity again. As she threw herself into the training, unexpected things began to happen. Within a few months of starting that yoga teacher training, I learned how to breathe properly. I learned how to relax without alcohol. That was a revelation. If somebody had said, you do this yoga teacher training course, you're going to be sober by the end of it, I wouldn't have done it, Esther admits. But the breathing and meditation quieted her demons in ways that alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs never could. Things that used to completely stress her out weren't doing that anymore. Esther was healing. As she drank less, she began noticing physical changes too. I was starting to really enjoy waking up without a hangover, without feeling that exhausted, groggy, I didn't sleep well last night feeling, she says. I just really started to enjoy feeling peaceful in my mind, instead of looking for the next stress. One day, as she lay recovering from the worst hangover she had ever experienced, she decided she wasn't going to do it anymore. Still, she wasn't sure how long she'd stick to it. She was good at self-sabotage. If I said, I want to do this, I will find a million ways not to do it. I'm so much of a rebel, I rebel more against myself than anybody else. It's ridiculous. So she just took it day by day. I'm not going to drink today. 6 weeks later, she went to her brother's wedding and had another revelation. While the red wine flowed freely around her, Esther stuck to her decision not to drink. The following day, there was no hangover, no guilt, and no shame. I hadn't upset my brother. I hadn't made a fool out of myself. I'd just been the proud, happy, joyful big sister. It was wonderful. That was the day when I knew I actually preferred being sober. She has not had a drink since October 2014. Nearly 4 years into her sobriety, Esther says she feels better than ever. I like the feeling of remembering going to bed. It's so much nicer, she says. And she's finally content with herself. I learned how to be in my own company and to be with my own self and to be able to look at things I'd done in my life without hating myself on every level of my existence. Since becoming sober, the mother of 3 has also noticed a remarkable shift in her youngest son, who was just 3 years old when she had her breakdown. As a toddler, she recalls he was often argumentative and difficult, but after she quit drinking, he blossomed into a calm, happy, and cooperative child. She realizes now it was her own behavior that was affecting him. I must have been absolutely terrifying to live with because he didn't know from one minute to the next who I was going to be. I must have been quite a difficult mother to have. Now I'm a lot more easygoing. I was very unpredictable. While everyone's path to sobriety is unique, Esther credits her recovery 100% to yoga. Yoga, she says, is about far more than chanting, holding your hands in prayer position, and doing poses. In fact, she sees a lot of similarities between yoga and the 12 steps. It makes you look at who you are and how you live. And it's about how we treat ourselves and how we treat other people. And learning to let go and learning to heal. There's so much healing that a yoga can give you. Conscious breathing, she says, has changed the way she deals with stress. Now when a situation is upsetting, she takes a few deep breaths to calm her nervous system. It might not change the situation at hand, but it does make her feel calmer. Walking helps too. As often as she can, she treks down to Dunraven Bay, a pebbly stretch of beach along the coastline of South Wales. It's all about finding that joy. Walking gives me this real sense of, I'm so alive right now. You climb up a mountain or you go to stand on a cliff's edge and you just feel that expansiveness, that space around you. You've done all that physical work to get there. I just love that. Her mission now, she says, is to share her stress management strategies with others and help them find the peace she has found. That's awesome. So, that's Esther's story. And the reason I wanted to read that is because I was going over it earlier, and when I was reading it, you guys, some lines stuck out to me, and I wanted to go back over them with you. So she says, she lived her 20s and her 30s basically fueled by stress, alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, and weed, and rock and roll music. That was it. Apart from my kids, that was my whole life. So while she didn't drink every day, she did drink most days. And all too often, she'd drink to the point of oblivion. Esther thought she was doing a good job of camouflaging her drinking, hiding it. She'd purchase her alcohol from different stores, hoping the shopkeepers wouldn't notice how much booze she was buying. She even managed to convince herself that she didn't have a problem. She could quit any time she wanted to, she told herself. She was sober through her pregnancies, after all, and she was a good mother. She's always taken care of her sons. That stuck out to me because whenever I was in treatment, that's what I went into treatment saying. I'm a good mom. I take care of my son. If you're drinking and using drugs while you have small children in the home, there's no way you're being a good parent. And when I went into treatment and I was sitting there in therapy, I was crying and saying I was a good mom. The counselor that was in there said, no, you're not. You're a horrible mom and you're sick, but you're not being a mom. And I remember being so angry and mad. How dare she? How dare she? Right? I'm a great person. I'm not a bad person. I need to go, but not sure how to feel about it. Hey, Joey. Yeah, actually, I go to a meeting on Monday nights at a treatment center the treatment center that I graduated from 4 years ago, and it's a really just an awesome meeting where I know everybody there, and I'm very vocal about being on Suboxone, and I work the 12 steps, and my sponsor is also an AA sponsor, and she knows that I'm on Suboxone, and I have experienced kind of a little bit of prejudice at first from people, but I'm going to tell you honestly, nobody judges me. A lot of people in my area are on medically assisted treatment, and we all go to AA. And all my friends that are abstinent that are in AA, they know I'm on it, and they don't judge me. And now I'm working towards tapering off, and I'm already down from 12 milligrams to 8 milligrams, which is a huge accomplishment for me because I never thought I was ever going to get off of it. I was completely fine with staying on it for the rest of my life. And the longer I worked the 12 steps and the more I got into recovery with AA and doing these things on my channel, I started thinking, maybe I want to try and do it without it. So, yeah, that's what I do. But if you're going in and you're on medically assisted treatment and you're brand new and you're going into a meeting, do I think you need to go in there and say, hi, my name's Joey and I'm on Suboxone? No, that's not anybody's business but you and your doctor. And if you get a sponsor and you start working the 12 steps and you feel comfortable talking to your sponsor about that, by all means, be honest and talk to your sponsor about it, But I'm going to tell you exactly what I've been through. I have told sponsors before, and they have told me they couldn't sponsor me. So, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't mess with outside issues. So, being on Suboxone is an outside issue. Being on any kind of medication is an outside issue. And in AA, sponsors and the AA fellowship is not your physician. So as long as you are being honest and you are being forthcoming with your physician and you are taking your medication as prescribed, that's just between you and your doctor and God or whoever your higher power is. I wish that I had kind of kept my situation to myself in certain situations in my life, but I didn't, and now I have a channel based all around me being on medically assisted treatment and helping other people who are on medically assisted treatment not feel like they're so alone. So that's why I started my channel, because I needed support, and I kind of felt like I didn't have that because not everybody understood what it was like to be on Suboxone and try to be working the steps and doing the right thing, because automatically people assume that if you're on medically assisted treatment that you must not be serious about your recovery. But I'm damn serious, and I don't want to go back out and get on drugs, and I don't want to lose my son, and I don't want to lose everything I've worked so hard for. So that's why I took my damn time. I got on Suboxone and I worked my program. I got into therapy and I started working hard to get to a place where I feel safe and I feel confident in tapering without, tapering off and not having that extra padding, because that's what I feel like Suboxone is. I feel like Suboxone is like a cast on your leg, okay? So you put that cast on your leg. Say you go out and you break your leg. You get your cast on and you got your crutches and you're wobbling around. Well, as your leg heals, as you heal from your addiction and you heal the trauma, the depression, the anxiety, whatever was causing you to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol, as you heal that, you'll take that cast off. But you're not going to go out and just run a marathon the day your cast comes off, are you? So the day you get off Suboxone, you're not going to get out and just go hang out with dope dealers, are you? No. You're going to start physical therapy and work on building the strength in that leg. When you get off Suboxone, You're going to up your meetings, up your support system, up your intake of addiction Hello. Hello.
Hi. I was calling to see.
That was Neil. Anyway, I hope that helps. And if you ever have any questions about Suboxone or medically assisted treatment and you want to talk about it, everybody's welcome here, you guys. We talk a lot about medically assisted treatment because that's what I'm going through right now. But I love, love, love sharing about, the 12 steps, and I love talking about what works for me. And yeah, so anyway, I wanted to read that story to you guys because I just thought it was so inspiring, and it literally went through the disease process and how we lie to ourselves and we try to say, I don't have a problem, and just all the things that we do in our mind, how our pride tells us we don't need help and we don't need to reach out. I mean, it was just like when I was reading what she was saying, I was just like, yeah, I've done all that, and it's such a process that we go through, you guys, when we're in our active addiction and then when we're trying to get sober. It's such a journey. It's a journey. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like you're just like sprinting. It's like cross-country track. Okay? You're going to be on this ride for a long time. In fact, recovery is for the rest of our lives. So what has happened for me is my shift in perception, my thinking has changed. I used to really enjoy getting high. I used to want to get high because I didn't care about anything else but myself. Today in my life, you guys, I have my son and my husband that I care so dearly about, and I have you guys that I care about. And so now I have purpose. And through finding a purpose, it's helped me to want to be sober. When I first got sober, I was sober because I was being forced to get sober because my son was being taken from me. And it was almost like I had to get sober, But between that time, something changed for me. And now I want to be sober. I want to live my life right. I want to own my own home. I want to be a good wife. I want to help other people. Like, these are things that I never used to think about before. I didn't give a damn about nobody but my damn self when I was in active addiction. And so for me to shift from being so selfish and self-centered to wanting to give back and help others and be a part of life, that's a miracle for me. And I'm so grateful every single day that I get a chance to come on here and share that with you guys. Because I'm telling you, I never thought I was going to get sober. I didn't think it was in the cards for me. I didn't think I was capable of getting sober. I didn't think my life would ever change. So if I can get my life together, then anybody can. So don't get discouraged. If you're struggling, you can always reach out to me. My email is in the description box and in the About Me of all my videos. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you enjoyed that little story. And yeah, I will see you guys. Tomorrow is Sunday, so tomorrow night at 7 p.m. we're going to do the NA, Narcotics Anonymous, basic text, and we're going to read and